Yo, what is up guys? So in this video, I'm gonna be explaining how I optimize my sports betting workflow to maximize profits. So if you're new to the channel, my name's Alex. I used to be a quant trader on Wall Street, but I love sports, I love gambling. I mean, I used to be a trader, a gambler in financial markets. And, I've been betting on sports very seriously for probably maybe 6.5, 7 years now. I've made over $750,000 in tracked, verified profit. This may be surprising to some of you because it seems like I'm always gambling. I'm gambling a lot, but I have a lot of things going on in my life. I recently got engaged. I live in Virginia, very close to my parents. So there's other things in my life that are important to me aside from sports betting, as crazy as that may be to some of you. So really what I want to do in a given day is obviously try to maximize profits in the smallest amount of time possible. So the point of this video is to kind of explain how I do that. So the first thing I do every single day is I use a ton of sports books. So the first thing I do is I check every single book for the profitable no-brainer promos, right? So one thing a lot of people say is, oh, you're a degenerate, you use multiple sports books. And it's like, no, that's not true, right? There's multiple reasons why you want to use numerous sports books. First of all these books set their own unique odds and lines. So, my results would not be possible if I used only one book. You have to use numerous books. You never know which book is gonna have the best value on a given day. Sometimes it's FanDuel, sometimes it's, PrizePicks, DraftKings Pick 6. So long story short, the more books you use, the better. But also, all of these books are in ruthless competition for customers, right? These books make an average $2,000 per customer per year, right? So FanDuel wants you on FanDuel, not DraftKings. FanDuel wants you to be using FanDuel every single day, not PrizePicks. Even if you're a profitable bettor, right? This is just generalized. They want you on their book. So these books give away free money, right? They're trying to appeal to sports bettors and stand out. Some of these promos like Mahomes 1+ passing yard are literally free money. So every single day, long story short, the first thing I do, either really late at night, sometimes I stay up late at like midnight or 1 a.m., I'll check every single book, or when I first wake up, if I'm busy that night, I'll check every single sports book for the no-brainer promos, right? And I've made a video about how if you take your sports betting seriously and you use multiple books, it doesn't matter what state you're in. Obviously, some states are better, but you could literally make over $50 a day in a very low-risk way just playing the sportsbook promos, right? Just playing these no-brainer promos, you should be able to make $50 a day. And if you have questions, you can comment them. So that's the first thing I do, right? The low-hanging fruit, the easiest money you're ever gonna make sports betting is from these promos. So it's the first thing you should take advantage of, every single day. I used to have a 9-to-5 job. I would get home from work. I would open up all my sports books, FanDuel, DraftKings, BetMGM, and I would check every single book for promos. And that would be the first thing I would bet. I would spend 30 minutes after work doing that. And my first few months sports betting, when I was living in Pennsylvania as a quant trader, my first few months, I made thousands of dollars off of promos alone. So it's kind of become a core part of my strategy. Now, the next thing I want to say is typically I look for bets all times of the day, right? That doesn't mean I'm spending 5 hours sports betting in a row. Typically what I do is I'll just load up OddsJam, like the arbitrage tool. So arbitrage is an absolutely amazing strategy. Arbitrage is basically when two sports books get so out of sync, right, that you can play equal and opposite outcomes to guarantee a risk-free profit. You can bet the over on one book, the under on a different book, and ensure a risk-free return. So the thing about arbitrage is one of those books is obviously making a mistake, right? Typically when there's a profitable bet, the sportsbook is making a mistake. So you never know, I never know when the best opportunities are going to occur. I mean, I have hit bets at 3 a.m., 2 a.m., noon, every single minute of the day. You never know when the best plays are going to occur. So typically what I do is a couple things, but when I have a few spare minutes, if I'm running to the bathroom and I'm on my phone, or if I'm just taking a walk to go get lunch, I'll literally just load up OddsJam. I'll check for, is there any good arbitrage or positive EV bets or really good DFS plays on like PrizePicks, and I'll lock them in. And sometimes if the board is dry, there's not much going on, I'll just leave, right? I won't bet. But OddsJam has notifications, so you can kind of set up notifications to get alerts for really good arbitrage bets on sportsbooks you use, stuff like that. So long story short, every hour or so, I'll just refresh OddsJam. I also have alerts on, and when there's a no-brainer bet, I'll log into my sportsbooks quickly and I'll lock the play in. Hopefully I'm able to get it in, on time. Next thing I wanted to mention in terms of optimizing my workflow is, again, I use a ton of sportsbooks. So sometimes there's information overload, right? Like sometimes I'll check the OddsJam positive EV tool and I'll see 100 bets. And it's like, I don't have time for this, right? This is too overwhelming. So typically what I do is I start out focusing on books where I have the highest betting limits. So for example, Dabble used to be one of my favorite sports books. I could bet $1,000 a slip, but then I started to crush them. I made $30,000 in a month. Now they limit me to like $45 a slip. So typically Dabble is not my top priority in a given day. I don't really care about Dabble plays as much as other books. Compare that to DraftKings Pick 6. DraftKings Pick 6 is a new DFS app. It works pretty similar to PrizePicks that recently launched. And on DraftKings Pick 6, there is a ton of value. There's a ton of profitable betting opportunities, and I have really high betting limits, right? So I'm able to hit plays and make $16,000 profit. Like, check out this play. I was able to get Kareem Hunt. This was a play from OddsJam. I was able to get Kareem Hunt over 7.5 rushing attempts. Literally every other sportsbook, every other data point, DraftKings Pick 6 was just messing up big time. Every other sportsbook is a data point. All the other books, these are multi-billion-dollar companies. You want to put some weight into their odds, into their lines. Every other sportsbook had Kareem's line at 8.5 or 9.5. So there was a very clear edge on DraftKings Pick 6 getting the over 7.5. So typically what I do is I try to focus on the books where I have the highest betting limits. For example, Novig and ProfitX, as well as DraftKings Pick 6. Here's another play I locked in on DraftKings Pick 6 this weekend. I had Puka over 6.5 receptions, PrizePicks, which unfortunately is another DFS app that I'm now limited on. They had his line higher at 7, and every sportsbook had his over super heavily favored. So on DraftKings Pick 6, it's a fixed payout sportsbook. So basically you take Puka to go over or under 6.5 receptions, you're getting the exact same payout regardless, right? If you take his over or his under, it doesn't matter. Any 3-pick entry, you're getting a 6x payout. So every book, every data point we had in the market had Puka's over massively favored. So that's the play you want to be on DraftKings Pick 6. So typically, the first books I filter in to OddsJam every single morning are DraftKings Pick 6, FanDuel, and then Novig and ProfitX. So Novig and ProfitX they're peer-to-peer exchanges. So basically it's peer-to-peer. There are no limits. You can bet however much you want. Sometimes there's amazing arbitrage bets. I mean, you'll see OddsJam users hitting arbitrage bets for $100, $200. Risk-free profit on Novig and ProfitX pretty consistently, basically every single day, to be honest. So usually I start on the books where I have the highest betting limits. And then if there's not much opportunity on those books, I'll start to add in books where I have lower and lower betting limits, such as Rebet, Fliff, and again, during MLB season, when there's not a lot of sports going on and I want to gamble, a lot of times I'm focusing on books where I don't have the highest betting limits. But again, there's just not as much opportunity because it is a slower time of year. So long story short, that's kind of how I do it. I'll give you a little screen share demo of how I use OddsJam in a given night or whenever I first check it. Again, notifications I highly recommend. You can set up notifications to get arbitrage alerts, stuff like that. So I definitely recommend doing that. But let's go over to a screen share. I'll kind of show you how I start out using OddsJam, and then we can go from there. So here you can see DraftKings pick 6. This is another slip I hit, $2,800, right? Like into over $16,000. So in terms of maximizing profits, that book's pretty important to me compared to Underdog Fantasy, a book where you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, they give me a max bet size of just $25, right? So this book is not as impactful. So typically I'm not rushing to get in plays. And again, the reason I'm limited is, unfortunately, that's just the way it is. If you absolutely crush Underdog, at some point, they're going to cut down your betting limit. And it sucks, but it's just kind of, you know, how it is. So typically what I do is I'll just go to OddsJam and I'll put in, you know, FanDuel usually gives me halfway decent betting limits. So does Fliff, Better as well. Rebet sometimes, and then I'll put in DraftKings pick 6. So typically what I do is I just quickly check for, okay, which of these books are offering me the best betting limits? So I'll kind of give you a little bit of an example. So here you can see a play on Carson Wentz, which you can actually see I already locked in. Over 19.5 completions. This is just the OddsJam positive EV tool, which points out mathematically profitable bets, plus EV or positive EV bets. So on Fliff, you're getting plus money, plus 105. Every other sports book, no other book's giving you plus money. This is also a locked market to Novig. Novig has the under at minus 105. On Fliff, the over is plus 105. So there's no juice or there's no hold between the two books. So one of those two bets has to be profitable. So typically what I do is I start out here. So you can see this Caleb Williams play. Fliff's the only book giving you plus money. That's also available. So typically what I do is I kind of start out just checking the main betting tools I use, which are the positive EV tool, which you can see right here. And again, just knowing how to navigate these books quickly. Like for example, this book right here, you can see on my phone, Rebet. It has a search button. And the search button obviously makes it easier to get to these good bets quicker and lock them in. Also, as a note, OddsJam has one-click bet. So if this play, let's say we're on FanDuel, you can just click the bet button and it takes you right to FanDuel and just puts in the wager. So you can see the bet right here on FanDuel. But again, in this case, the value's on Rebet, but the sportsbook is loading very slow today. So let's just try this again. So this is the bet you want to be on. It looks like really good value. I mean, DraftKings, a $20 billion company, they have this line as a minus 175 favorite. So I'm able to get this locked in on Rebet for $200. I honestly wouldn't mind betting a little more. I didn't expect them to give me that much money, so I can try betting it for more. And wow, they're actually going to take another $410. So what I can do is I can lock this in for my max. And then what I'll do is I'll just hide this bet from OddsJam. So typically, you know, depending on how much time I have available, obviously when I'm using the positive EV tool, you want to focus on the higher edge. Now it's telling me I can't bet that. It's telling me only 212. So, okay, whatever you say, Rebet. So now they're going to take it again. So obviously you want to focus on the highest edge bet first, right? A 4% profit margin or EV percentage is better than a 1% profit margin or EV percentage. So typically you want to focus on the highest edge bets first. And again, that's kind of how I use it. And then as I, you know, if I have more time in a given day, I'll start to layer on other sports books. Like for example, DraftKings. The only problem with DraftKings is I just get lower betting limits, right? So like if you look at this play plus 120. Pinnacle, which is known to be one of the sharpest or smartest sports books, they're only giving you plus 102 on this play. On DraftKings, it's plus 120. So a much better price. We're getting value in the market, which is the first step to being a profitable sports bettor. So sometimes if I'm bored, I'll throw on DraftKings, but that's the problem, right? They just give me such low betting limits because I'm up a lot of money on this book. If you look at my stat sheet, I'm up 12K this month, 230K lifetime. So usually I don't even have time to filter DraftKings in. It's just not worth my time. The betting limits are too low. So I'm just focusing on these sports books. Hard Rock is another book. It's a book legal in my state, but I just have such low betting limits that I don't even bother usually checking it. I'd rather place this bet on Rebet. That sure, Rebet is offering a slightly worse price for Saints plus 18.5. On Rebet, I'm getting minus 139. On Hard Rock, it's minus 135. So I'm getting a worse price, but I don't really care, right? Because at least I can bet more money. If a bet has a 10% profit margin and you can only bet $1, that's a 10-cent bet, a 10-cent profit margin bet. So you do have to kind of consider, just your time. So usually what I do is just something like this. It doesn't seem like there's a ton of good bets on DraftKings Pick 6. But what I can do is I'll lock in this play on the Saints. And then once again, you just go here, you hit hide bet. I don't need to see it anymore. I already got it locked in, so I'm going to get it locked in. Right? And I do like to check the arbitrage tool for crossed markets. Right now, there's not a ton of opportunity. And then again, I also like to check for plays on DraftKings Pick 6. Because that's a book where, again, I'm able to bet a lot of money. I've made a lot of money on it, and I'm still able to get down a lot of action. So that's kind of how I optimize my workflow. Not super complicated. Focus on books that are the most profitable, give you the best betting limits, and then you can start to layer in others and set up notifications on OddsJam. That's really the key.